You so much. We appreciate you very much. Let's welcome back to the show. Look who's here. Former Reagan economist, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, the one and only Art Laffer. Art, it's so good to see you again. I thought inflation was transitory.
Wonderful to see you, Emac.
It's good to see you. You know, the White House, I thought inflation was transitory. That's what the president said. Now it's greedy corporations?
Well, you know, inflation may be more transitory than we like to think, but prices aren't. The prices are still rising. They're just rising at a slower rate. And that's 18% up from when he took office. So inflation is still very much of a problem, but higher prices will remain a huge problem. You're paying more all the time when you go in. That's the truth. And the thing of jobs, too, Emac, is silly. You know, a lot of the increase in jobs came from illegal aliens, 8 million of them coming over the border. And I think about half of them are employed now. So that's taken 4 million jobs from people who would have gotten those jobs. And so, you know, even the employment numbers just don't look good to me.
Yeah, and you know, let's get back to this too, Art. Biden's going to blame all those, is he going to blame all those greedy green energy companies he gave hundreds of billions to? I mean, he's talking about Cookie Monster, tweeting about shrinkflation. They really need a fake puppet to prop this story up. Last we checked, do puppets shop at the grocery store?
Oh, I don't know if they do. Cookie Monster's a cute little fellow. They go, what does he do? I don't know. But the Cookie Monster's a cute guy. He's not someone you want to blame. I mean, if you have to blame, you have to look at the Fed. You have to look at the transfer payments. You have to look at what Biden has done. There wasn't much inflation under Trump at all, but it came right as soon as Biden came into office, as you would have expected with their policies. If you look at the Trump period, I mean, real incomes went up. I think median incomes went up by $6,000. They way down by Biden. So, you know, there's not a lot of good news here for the Biden administration. And there is a lot of good information from Trump. I mean, if you look at what he did with Warp Speed, you look at what he did with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, you look at what happened to the poverty levels for the poor, the minorities, the disenfranchised. If you looked at what happened to real GDP growth versus Europe, all of those tax revenues came in higher after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So all of that's very positive, and Biden just hasn't had any successes at all in the economy. I'm surprised he touts it.
You know,
but maybe it's because Trump didn't have wars either.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. But they're spending at wartime levels. You know what's really interesting? We looked at a Fed study. Corporate profit margins have fallen back to pre-pandemic levels by the end of 2022. You know,
of course.
Art, you know, jobs report is coming out Friday. Private sector payrolls are expected to rise by just 160,000, Art. That's below January's, much stronger than expected. 317,000. Something like 11 out of 12 months last year, they revised the jobs report down. What's interesting, what people aren't talking about, Art, and you have your finger on the pulse here, the government workforce is exploding. The size of the government is getting bigger. It's now nearly a record 3 million government workers. The government is getting way too big.
It is very large. And if you see those numbers on new jobs coming down now, please don't ask me to forecast what's going to happen on Friday, because I don't have a clue, and I'm really not good at that.
Right.
But the history of these jobs has not been doing well, and I doubt very much if you'll get much of a change coming this Friday, a big change in the system. But frankly, the job market has not been to Biden's advantage at all. And as I said earlier, a lot of those jobs have gone to people who have illegally come in here, and they're measured in the job numbers. But, you know, and they shouldn't be, because they're jobs that wouldn't be here if they weren't here.
All right,
that would mean a much more sluggish market.
He's going to say he created 15 million jobs. What do you say?
I don't think so. I don't think he's done anything like that. Now, he has created jobs. There have been jobs created here, but not 15 million. That's not. And, you know, one of the things they always talk about is this boom stock market. But the stock market today, whether you look at the Dow or the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, is lower now in real terms, if you take inflation away, than it was in 2021. So, you know, even the stock market, which they tout and yell about and all that, has not been doing well.
Yeah, Senator Katie Britt's going to give the response to the State of the Union. She's probably going to say the pandemic shutdowns, when they stopped, created all those jobs. It just clawed them back. Art Laffer.
Well, they did. All that. That's just a bounce back.
Yeah, it's a bounce back. Art Laffer, thanks for joining us. It's always great having you on.
Thank you,
It's good to see you again, my friend.
I love it. Thanks for having me on.
Love it, too. Okay.